On Saturday, March 14th, the clergy left the sanctuary after celebrating our two final B'nai Mitzvah in the building. We packed up and went home and figured we'd be back soon. On March 16th, restaurants and bars closed. On March 18th, schools closed. Gatherings of more than 10 people were banned. On March 19th, all non-essential businesses closed. On March 25th, the state of Colorado went into lockdown, starting the next morning at 6 a.m. On March 28th, Governor Polis declared a major disaster in the state of Colorado. It's September 20th. There's no end in sight. At first, I was so hyper aware, hyper vigilant. I counted everything. I counted the minutes I wasn't working while my son Neil was at home with me. I counted the hours while he slept and I could be working, but instead I was worrying. I counted the days that we were at home until I lost count. So I stopped counting. And those first few weeks, it felt like time lost meaning. All the ways that I used to define and mark time became irrelevant. We didn't leave the house. We didn't see anyone. I had no errands, no appointments. My calendar, my beautiful color-coded calendar meant nothing. We had no schedule, no productivity. Time had no purpose. We were floating, drifting in a world filled with unending anxiety and even more unending Paw Patrol. And so we had to reinvent time. Today, during our Torah reading, Cantor Sex beautifully read us the account of the fourth day of creation. Part of it said, "And God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate day from night. They shall serve as signs for the fixed times, the days and the years. They serve as lights in the expanse of the sky to shine upon the earth." And it was so. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. On the fourth day, God gave us time, fixed time, measured time. The Torah teaches that the sun and the moon will differentiate between day and night and serve as signs for fixed times, for days and for years. It's explicit. It sounds simple and clear and straightforward. Why would we ever have to think about that time passing again? God laid it out. Sun rises, day begins, sun sets, day ends. But there's actually nothing simple at all about the way that we as Jews measure time. And the most fascinating part is that we're not afraid to change it the way we do that. It seems strange because time is one of those things that marches on without needing our consent. And yet, over and over during our thousands of years of history, we have reimagined over and over the way that we mark the passing of time. Let me give you some examples. We count our months by the moon. Stay with me here. The moon goes through its lunar cycle, meaning it wanes and waxes and wanes or whatever. It goes from little to big to little. Exactly once every 29.5 days. And we feel the moon. So marking time by the moon makes sense. That magnetic pull attracts us. It draws us in. And yet, we can't just use the moon to mark time because 29.5 days per month gets us 354 days in a 12-month cycle, which means that every year our calendar would move 11 days earlier and our holidays would not be rooted in the seasons, and it would be weird, deeply weird to celebrate Passover in the middle of winter. And so while we count our months by the moon, we count our years by the sun. And in order to make 12 29.5 day months fit into 365 days, which is how long it takes for the earth to go around the sun, we have a 19-year cycle in which the 3rd, 6th, 8th, 11th, 14th, 17th, and 19th year have an extra month so that we can tell the story of our freedom in the spring when the world is blooming and freedom seems possible. The upshot, we reinvent time. And we count our weeks by Shabbat. Because for 6 days, God worked to create the world, and on the 7th day, God rested. So we too rest on the 7th day, but we count our days by the nights because there was evening and then there was morning. But we count our hours by the season because Jewish hours don't have 60 minutes. Instead, we take the total number of minutes between sunrise and sunset and divide them by 12 so that our day is actually made up of 12 equal daylight hours. In June, those hours might be 75 minutes long. In December, 47. Why? So that we can know how and when to pray when we begin to see the sun peeking over the horizon, and we can genuinely thank God for renewing creation daily. And so we know how and when to begin Havdalah so that we can escort Shabbat out as the stars begin to shine and we make that distinction between what is holy and what is regular. We reinvent time. And finally, we count our smallest units of time with our emotions. We count our seconds by our impatience. The modern Hebrew word for second is shniya, which any Israeli will tell you is the equivalent of yelling, 1 second, when someone asks you to do something. And the original word for minute is rega. And in our Tanakh, the root word rega has 2 meanings. It can be used to talk about calming down, relaxing, being at rest. And it can be used to talk about momentum, disturbance, a stormy sea, troubled waters. That is the power of a minute. In the blink of an eye, what transpires in 1 minute can whip us up into a frenzy, mental waves crashing, heart pounding. And in the next minute, it can bring us slowed pulse, deep breaths, and calm. We use that minute as we need it, how we need it, for calm or for action. We reinvent time all the time. And yet our tradition isn't just about measuring the moments. The first commandment we get in the Torah is about marking the months and making them holy. Our job is to use the framework that we are given to make meaning out of the passing of each moment. Ancient pagans believed that time loops in endless circularity. It goes nowhere in an eternal recurrence. And then the Jews reinvented time. We believed and still do that time has positive direction. It moves steadily forward. And indeed, that remains true, even in this pandemic time of timelessness. The minutes tick by. And so it is our job now to reinvent time, to recreate the potential for meaning, and then to make that meaning. The minutes tick by with or without us. And perhaps we can't meaningfully measure time right now by meetings and appointments and dinner dates or gatherings or celebrations or events. But did you know the average human breathes 15 times per minute? That means we take 900 breaths per hour. If we manage to just breathe through 1 full hour, we mark the passage of time and create holiness and repetition. The average person reads 250 words per minute, takes 100 steps per minute. If we reinvent routine, create new patterns and cycles in our lives that do work, that are measurable, that make sense, and that we can count, then like our ancestors have done every time the world changed, we will have redefined time yet again. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel famously wrote that we are not a people of sacred space, we are a people of sacred time, and our hero and teacher, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, may her memory be our blessing, taught us that real change, enduring change, happens 1 step at a time. So let's go slow, 1 day or hour, or even just 1 minute. Let's find a tiny moment of holiness, create a ritual, make a new unit of time. Those few stolen moments in the morning before anyone else wakes up and you get to drink your coffee in silence, mark it. The space between breakfast and lunch when you manage to be productive, be creative, be clean, or just be still, mark it. The time that your child is actually on the right Zoom call with their 2nd grade class for once and you fold the laundry in peace, mark it. the phone calls and the text messages that you send encouraging others to use their voice and vote, the steps you walk in protest, the signs you post, the letters you write, the late afternoon hour you spend sitting on the lawn 15 feet away from your precious grandchild. That Friday evening happy hour you now have each week with a glass of wine and your Temple Emanuel clergy live in your home through Facebook as we bring you Shabbat, mark that too. Those moments matter. Let them fill you and feed you, nourish you and sustain you and make you holy. Let's not wait for our lives to fit back into the structures of time that are missing from this strange vacuum. Let's reinvent them. Instead of 60 seconds, let's count 15 breaths, 250 words, 100 steps. We have no sense of how long we're in this for, alone in our homes or never alone in our homes. And we have no idea when or if life will return to what it was. That is a measure of time that we cannot count on. And so instead we count breaths and Zooms and 6-foot spaces because we are responsible for reimagining the way we count, for reinventing time. We have the power and the responsibility to mark its passing, to find meaning in it, and to make sure it matters. May 5781 be a year of seconds, minutes, hours, and days that are defined by their holiness, not by their void. May we take these gifts of the fourth day of creation, the sun and the moon, their rising and setting, these fixed intervals that we can depend on, and take comfort in their steadiness. We cannot control the passage of time, and so we must extract meaning from it as it flows by filling it with breaths and books and votes and marches and kindness. We know the sun will set, and when it does, we will be able to say that we built something, created something, survived something on this day. There was evening, there was morning, the fourth day.